In the void, where the warp winds howl, a fleet once noble, now destined to fall. Grave wardens stir, betrayal takes shape, Typhon's whispers, sealing their fate. Navigators lost to the shadowed lie, a fleet adrift beneath a darkened sky. The warp's crew grasp, unyielding and tight, chaos awaits in the endless night. Whispers of power, a pestilent tide, Mortarian's pride, with nowhere to hide. The destroyer plague, a grim reward, Nurgle's laughter echoes aboard. Bound by decay, they rise in his name. The death god transformed, never the same. Plague-born sons with torment they bled, shambling forth where angels fear to tread. Mortarian stands, his sons by his side. Through agony storm, their oaths collide. Grandfather's hand, the pact is sealed. The legion reborn, their fate revealed. Rise in the armor, rot in the soul. A Primarch remade, his heart grown cold. In terror's shadow, their war drums beat. Pestilent warriors, no chance of retreat. Through breach and ruin, their banners fly. With death's embrace, they'll never die. The Lion's Gate, where hope was torn. Jagged blade meets the Plague-born. Eternal servants where corruption lies. Mortarians fall, Typhus ascends, the death god song, it never ends.
We're doing it live.
Do it live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Chaos. I almost said the Discussing Resilient podcast, technically, kind of, but the Chaos Pantheon. We will be joined by all three of us very shortly. Dave's just running a little bit behind, but you're joined obviously by myself, Aidan, who runs the Discussing Resilient podcast for all things to do with Mr. Nurgle and the death. Oh, there we go. Speak of the devil, here he arrives. I'll have to rejig my cameras in a second. But bringing us in on the World Eaters and the Blood for the Blood God nut jobs, we have Mr. Dara from the Red Path. Hello, Mr. Dara. How are you?
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. It's been a hot minute since we've done a Chaos Pantheon, and a lot has changed, so I'm super excited to start talking about some good stuff.
It has been quite a little bit. But if you're less into your punching people in the face and spraying blood everywhere, and instead you're into your silly magic people, and apparently robots now, you can check out our friend Doombolt Dave, as we like to call him on here, from the Tizcam podcast. How are you doing over there, silly magic man?
Needs to be like a T-shirt or something. So Doombolt Dave or something. show up to London next year with that. So yeah, I'm doing good. It's been kind of a interesting week with the news on the new models and everything. So it's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's been definitely a big week for all Chaos. I've almost finished rejigging the cameras. Give me a second. Dara, say something quirky and funny to cover my ass
Something
for 5
quirky and
seconds.
funny. Do you want me to inflame the audience? The World Eater reveals weren't as bad as everyone's saying.
Okay, so I think we're definitely going to go through all these because I think there's been some definite hot takes. A lot of, I think, probably like, it's weird. I think the least salt maybe on the Death Guard side has been quite a bit of salt on the World Eater side, and I think the thousands some players are just confused at this point. Those robots are definitely they're definitely a model. That is a Warhammer 40,000.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I really like the robots. I just think they're painted in the wrong scheme, in my opinion. I think in a nice cherry red, like 30k Thousand Suns, that would look pretty nice. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just a funny man who runs at you with accents, so what do I know?
I think our theory on that is that there's plenty of people out there that have like rumor shows and they share what they know and everything. One of them is Valrak. And I was listening to Valrak one day, and I think it was the day before the release or the day of the release, and he was saying, well, something happened supposedly, and the rumor was that there was supposed to be a big reveal, or there was supposed to be something and they were way behind, or there was something that was it didn't go right or something along that line. And that's what the rumor was. Well, I looked at the robots and I thought, well, these look unfinished. It looks like the studio primed the models white and got working on all the trim and everything, and then like the sales guys show up and say, hey, sorry guys, we're going live with these tomorrow, are they ready? And they're like, well, let me throw some weathering on there on the white panels and everything. Okay, good enough. And they threw them out there. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's one of the worst paint jobs I've seen the studio do in a long time.
Why the cream?
But yeah, the paint.
Nothing else in your army is like, I think they were, like you said, they were trying to make it look like ancient robots and stuff, but the problem I have with it is, like, I looked at the cream and I was like, oh, they've tried to weather that. I mean, they haven't painted the trim on it, but they've tried to weather it. But then if you look at the back image of the model, where it's like the back panel where it's all the black, it's pristine, clean. Yeah. I'm just like, so do they just get dusty on the front? Is like some weird sorcery bullshit going on here?
I also think like the back of the model really looks like a crisis suit as well. Where they stole some crisis suits and they're like, actually, you know what, this isn't gonna fly. We'd better slap some Egyptian stuff on this.
The paint is not doing them any good, and there's been plenty of like folks that have kind of colored them in, and they, without a doubt, they look better when you start to fill in the actual colors of the army on there. But still, the models look like something like out of a parts bin. Like it's kind of like they had all these parts that they've used on different things, like the missile racks from the Scarab Occult Terminators. The chest piece looks like it was just kind of like a Terminator's chest piece blown up and just slapped on there. It's very bulky and weird looking. And then like some of the other bits are just they're pulled from different models. The tabard, by the way, that sticks down looks like Vashtor's tabard. So the funny thing is Thousand Suns, to the surprise of everybody, have actually used robots in the lore for a long time. And actually, if you go look at the Horus Heresy catalog, they've got these awesome looking robots. And the hilarious part is the community was just like, look guys, all you had to do was just take those robots, put some chaos panels on them, and we'd be happy. And I think that's what everybody's expectation was. Just give us those robots, let us use them in 40k, and we're great. And it was kind of like jaw-dropping. Like, what is this? It's not even the same size. I mean, they're like slightly bigger than Terminators. It's just, and they skipped leg day. They just, I don't know how to explain it. So I'm not a fan of it, but I'm gonna own them. I'm gonna have them in my army. You know, that's the reality of it. But I think,
I think there's a lot of interesting.
I don't speak for everybody, but
yeah, I think you can.
I don't speak for everybody, but I know that 60% of our Discord server likes the model, which means technically most people like the model, but there's definitely a very heavy like 50-50 split, and the people who don't like it really don't like it, and I don't see a lot of people who like it are just like, wow, these are amazing, I need like 90 of them.
Yeah, that's fair. People, like I said, even those they're weird. Like they look very static. Just very quickly, someone in the chat just saying you're a little quiet, Tizcan. Is there a chance you can just turn yourself up a little bit if possible? I've got your max there, can. Also, thank you very much, Glaze Chicken, for the gifted membership. Really appreciate the support. Thank you so much. But yeah, they're weird. They're very static, which maybe is like they're supposed to look like because obviously they're supposed to be like statues. I'm not a huge fan of like the big gun arm. That's like because they have like one gun that's kind of like on an arm. It has like the top bit of an arm, and the hand is the gun, and the other one's just like a ballistus dreadnought just slammed on the side of it. But you can get a claw, so it's like they can also melee. But they're definitely, I think they're going to be a very Marmite like. Sorry, I don't even know if you know what Marmite is, Dave, over in America. Marmite is it's like a. How's the best way to describe it, Dara?
It's just like a spread, I guess, where it's like you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, that's like the tagline for it is you love it or you
Yeah.
hate it. There's no in between.
Well, I married a Kiwi, so I know what Vegemite is. So I don't have
Same
any
thing.
idea what Marmite is, but Vegemite, I guess, same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fair enough comparison. So, I mean, you mean because we all basically got one model revealed. So we've obviously started there with Thousand Suns. So we'll carry on with that. So we've talked about the physical looks of the model and the the paint job and whatnot. What about the actual unit as a unit though being added to your army? From what we've heard, they get to I think Overwatch for free, and they look like they have some. They've already given us some weapons like a heavy warp flamer, melter. Looks like they've got a melee option, like I said, because there's a picture of them with a claw. So what do you think about the actual addition of them to the army? What are your hopes for it? And do you think like it's something you definitely needed, or do you think this is like me getting my 800th character?
No, it's good. Honestly, because we needed anything other than another character. So, I mean, I think that's the good spot. Did Thousand Suns need another Overwatch mechanic? I don't know. That might be a little bit much. It's good that we have Melta. Like, we have Melta nowhere else in the rest of the army for the most part, so now we get Melta back, which is nice. Supposedly they have kind of like a bodyguard rule of some kind, so we'll be need to see what that looks like. And then supposedly in the Codex we get a vehicle detachment, so maybe there's some form of running a bunch of them together in a vehicle detachment with like a bunch of demon engines and stuff. But that was the other thing. It was kind of like a vehicle detachment for us is, okay, robots and what? Like, what vehicles do we have? We don't. It's not really a thing for us.
It was weird to hear them say that. Like, I wasn't expecting a vehicle detection of thousands. Because I mean, like, you got predators. I mean, it might mean you're not losing predators, which is nice. But yeah, I don't think people play into Thousand Suns and like, oh man, you know what I want to play when I play my Thousand Suns? I really want to play with tanks.
Yeah.
It's
that is what it is. And on the Predator, like, aren't we due for a refresh on that model at some point? Like, this thing is like 800 years old. When are they going to update it? That and the Land Raider. I mean, even the Chaos versions of them. It would be great to just get refreshes on those. Even they don't have to get crazy. Just update them, make them a little bit more finer detail, a little bit better where the cracks on the molds and everything aren't visible. That kind of stuff. So.
I mean, I'd be happy if they just did like the new
agree.
Demon Prince
I have
kit
no idea.
and just shoved like here's generic kit and here's like a new like the Demon Prince kit has like a head for the Nurgle and a tail for Nurgle, a head for Khorne, etc. If you just do that like a Predator, you can make a Predator kit and you'd be like, hey, here's a turret that's got some slightly Nurgly looking bits on it. Here's stuff like that. That'd be pretty good. So yeah, I get what you mean. It's definitely interesting to hear that you're getting that. But I mean, at least it's not a character. At least you got a new unit, which is something, and hopefully it does sort of fill the gap. I will admit though, as someone has said in chat, just use the 30k variants. I don't even think you can because I think the size is way off. The 31s are chunky.
They're twice as big.
Yeah,
I think there's like a weird
The
30k like
ones
insect monster thing you could use though. There's like a weird like insects bug that they have.
Actually, someone was pointing out that they are roughly the same proportions as the Men of Iron that they brought out for, I think it was Blackstone Fortress, or in that box. It's like a.
So I was gonna bring that up, right?
Man robot or
Their
something.
like crest thing. If you get rid of that, it's a Man of Iron's head under it. So like they're just the Men of Iron with magic in them, like which. I don't know if that's like if we're gonna get a lore development on that, but like if the Thousand Suns are like, man, you know what we need? automata are cool, but what if we had artificial intelligence? I'm like, okay, cool, I guess. So because I noticed that I was like, huh, where have you seen that head before? And then I was like looking at like or whatever he is from Blackstone Fortress. I was like, oh, he's literally a man of iron.
I thought they just put a ball bearing in there. I thought they were out of time to paint. They didn't have time to paint the face. So just like, just put it in. Just spray it silver and put it in. But I mean,
it's funny that we were actually thinking we were going to get a character, because Thousand Suns have like sorcerer hybrids of all the models. So the Exalted Sorcerer's like a captain. The Infernal Master that we recently got was kind of the equivalent of like a lieutenant in a way, or the chaplain. I mean, depending on how you looked at it from 9th edition. So we were kind of under the impression, well, the one thing we're missing is the Warpsmith Psyker hybrid. And that we were kind of thinking, okay, well, if they're rolling robots out, we'll get one of them as well. So I think there's this very, very, very low probability of a potential that there are more models that didn't get revealed for the Thousand Suns release that are yet to still come out. But the fact that they already revealed what the Battle Force looks like tells me that that's probably not likely, unless they're going to sell those models separate. So.
Yeah, that's fair. And speaking of second wave releases, Dara, how's the second wave releases?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm going to go straight out and say it. It's going very much against the like conventional internet community.
Are you going to upset
World
Reddit?
Leaders. I don't give a shit. I can shut down that subreddit at any moment if I want to. And I very nearly did the day after Adepticon. Yeah, so I actually am very, very pleased about what we got. Primarily because I don't have the time to be making like content for 10 new units that have to be painted to a good standard and put out on the red path. So very selfish reason there. But also like I think so in the build up to obviously Adepticon and over the last year, we had heard no substantial rumors about World Leaders getting a second release. So around probably like summer of last year, me and the boys were talking, and I kind of started coming to terms with the fact that we weren't going to get a second wave. Because like we heard all the big waves that came out, like Space Wolves, Eldar, Krieg, like we heard these rumors from various different sources. We knew what was coming. Nothing for World Leaders. I was like, cool, we're going to get the Berserker Surgeon. Fine. I was very, very surprised when we got the Goremongers for Kill Team, which are an incredibly cool unit visually. I absolutely love the lore behind them. Boys that saw off their own legs just to look more like bloodletters.
I didn't know that was the lore until someone told me. It's like so wait, what's the lore again? So it's a fella. Oh, we lost Dave. He's coming back. They're cultists that witnessed a bloodletter and didn't die and thought that dude was rad. I want to be like him.
Yeah, it's so cool. And they're like, do you know what? The first thing we need is those digigrade legs, so we'd better cut off our own. Start from the bottom, right? So they're awesome. They're very interesting because obviously we don't know the rules yet, but they functionally fill a gap that competitive World Leader players have been feeling, which is kind of like a very early trade piece unit. Like the best thing that we have currently is like 3 8-bound or 5 Khorne Berserkers. I want to be able to throw like not actual trash, but like something in the middle. I think they'll be great for that, and I'm very interested to see their rules. A lot of people talking, they're probably going to have Infiltrate. I'll see. Maybe they will. But they're cool, so great to see them. Very excited to get that kit in my hands.
I think a lot of people have forgotten about that kit because like everyone's like, oh, World Leaders are only getting one new thing. It's like, no, you are also getting a Kill Team. Which
we're getting two units, and both of those units are units. They fill a role that we don't currently have in our book. So I was saying this to you guys, I think before we went live, that I had accepted that we were probably getting a Berserker Surgeon because that was like the community manifested that into reality. You know, everyone was saying like there's lots of lore about him, he's coming out, blah blah blah. But quietly in the background, me and the boys were like, wouldn't it be amazing if we got an 8-bound character? Because something that we completely lack right now is the ability to like have a character that is not a mounted guy leading 8-bounds and doing something substantial for them. Because outside of Vessels of Wrath, it's really awkward to attach the mounted guys to the 8-bound because they can't go through the walls. So getting the Slaughterbound is really, really cool. I did a whole review of the model like a couple of days ago. I think the model is good. I don't think it's like interesting and it doesn't jump out from the other 8-bounds. So if you're a World Leaders fan and you're watching this and you don't already know, we're having a community event in the Red Pat Discord where it's about kit batching your own slaughter band. So I think there's loads of scope for like doing really cool stuff with that canvas. But like what we've heard about the model on the table, which is like insane to me, is that like he can resurrect 8-bound, which like they're already such a toxic unit to play against. If they remain unchanged, which I will be very surprised if they do, but if they remain completely unchanged, and I can take Vessels of Wrath with one of these guys in a 6-man Exalted unit and just be like, cool, you basically can't kill them in a single round of shooting. Then they blood surge into you, and then I revive the guy that you did manage to kill. Like, that just seems so toxic.
In a way,
yeah, I don't know, it's cool.
In a way, I guess you technically did get a Butcher Surgeon, just a very specific one.
It's some sort of apothecary. And they also admitted that they messed up with Karanak and he's coming back, which I think is also really funny.
Yeah, the best boys. But I really want to know the lore reason for why this guy resurrects people. Like, I don't understand.
I feel like it's like the man has a bloodthirster inside him. He probably just screams at them and they get back up. Like,
yeah, you die when
it's gonna be stupid.
I haven't given you permission to die.
World Leader lore is just dumb, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's cool. Like, I don't mind it. The Battle Force is great if you want to get into Vessels of Wrath, because that's exactly what you need. Yeah, I'm happy. Like, we got 2 cool units that can fill roles we couldn't fill before. Like, you could literally, everyone's like, oh, amazing, attach the Slaughter Bound to 8-bound units. You could just run him by himself. He's probably going to be like 100 and something points. Just run him around. He's going to be a blender. Like, that's incredible. We just haven't had access to a character that can just like hoof it around the board, you know, and do whatever he wants.
That
like,
dude's going to be damage 3 minimum, and that's
yeah,
a very nice profile to have.
We were like, okay, I think it was Brian sent in a GIF where it was like, you know, Andy throwing Woody into the bin.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, Woody was like Glaive Mo, and then it was like Slaughterbound Glaive guy up next. But like, and we were saying obviously Glaive is probably going to change, but what's not going to change is Arc Slaughter in Vessels of Wrath, because it's a Grotmus detachment. That gives you extra AP and damage. So that guy is going to be, I feel like, minimum damage 4. So, hot damn.
That was.
So, yeah.
Does that make you? Does that make you move away from Angron potentially?
Oh, I moved away from Angron after Vessels of Wrath. I haven't touched him. You know, I have found that like combating the top meta armies at the minute, if you have an Angron Berserker Warband list, you are gonna lose. And if you have 18 Exalted 8-bound and Vessels of Wrath, you're probably gonna win. And that's just the harsh reality of the meta we're in right now.
Tag it, pray they fail leadership, win.
If you tag enough, it's gonna be fine.
That's fair enough. And I mean, they didn't actually give us any examples of the detachments that you're going to be getting. We obviously heard that there's been vehicle detachment for Thousand Suns. Didn't hear anything about World Eaters. Would you like to hazard a guess at potentially what they could potentially go for?
We were talking in our Patreon chat that like apparently a lot of the battle boxes, the name of the battle box has been the name of a detachment. And the battle box we're getting is called like Gorestorm Massacre, and it's a ton of 8-bound and some jackals. I would guess there's an 8-bound detachment, considering we now have 3 8-bound type units. If that's true, holy mother of God, I am going to play the ever-loving life out of that detachment. Like, I don't see this being a reality, but let me pitch a world in which one of the abilities of this attachment is 8-bound become battle line. I am going to run so many 8-bound. It's just going to be stupid. I don't care that everyone's like, I'm so sick of 8-bound. I love my muscle boys. Like, they're so much fun to run around the board. I never have a bad time with them. I suspect we'll see the index. Like, we're getting 5. So, in theory, there's, like, I feel like there could be a Talons of the Emperor, you know, with the Sisters and the Custodes, but for Jackals and World Eaters. Except instead of it being synergistic, I hope it's like antagonistic, where it's like the Berserkers kill Jackals to get more powerful.
That'd be cool.
It would be fun. And I mean, like, we've seen a lot of transport-based attachments like Renegade Raiders and the Emperor's Children one, whose name escapes me. I could see that for us. There's obviously a Demons detachment, which they actually did say that, and one cool thing they said was in that detachment there's an enhancement for a Juggerlord to lead Blood Crushers or Flesh Hounds. So that's pretty cool, actually. I do like that.
That's scary because that guy, if he keeps his impact mortal wounds on the charge and then can join blood crushers who have a rule to give impact mortal wounds, that's like 8d3 potential mortal wounds on the charge, which is that's
The problem's always been that unit's so expensive, and then okay, if you survive the wounds or you don't roll enough of them, they just kind of die.
Yeah. I think what could be more interesting is if he, by gaining this enhancement, does he inherit the units rule? Because if he inherits the Fleshhound rule of uppy downy, I could mess with that. Yeah.
Okay,
I could take that. So yeah, I'm hype, man. I'm really, really hype.
No, that's awesome. So
it sounds like what they're doing is they're giving every Chaos faction or Chaos Marine faction 5 detachments from what it sounds like, and it's probably
sounds like that. However, the special snowflake somehow gets 6.
I get 6 detachments. Okay, the running theory is they wanted to reach the sacred number because with Grotmus that makes us 7. So that's the running theory. My personal theory is that we're just better than you, so we get an extra detachment. Sorry to say, the
reality is that you have twice as many models as both of our
No. And the funny thing is, there's still people moaning in the Death Guard that we just got a new character. And I'm just like, mate, what were you expecting? We have 3 unique demon engines. We have 2 Terminator variants. We have a unique cultist sort of unit with Poxwalkers. We have our Plague Marines, and then we've got a metric ton of characters. We were not getting any unit anytime soon. I'd love to see us get a Plague Havoc squad or something like that, but reality is, especially if you guys we're going to get 1 each. There's no way in hell that we're going to get anything anytime soon. So I was totally expecting him. He's a really cool model. I really like a lot of Poxes. I think he's the last one.
I think he's the best model of the 3 cult legions that dropped over Adepticon. He looks so cool.
I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I will agree on that one. But he's got the rules preview they sort of gave for us was that they didn't say it, but they said that he obscures the vision. And what they said is the guy who's presenting it said he obscures the vision of those, and then he said something making them harder to, and then he changed it, so he went, well, they can't be hit at all. So I'm hoping he gives a squad a lone op. But it'll probably be 18, it won't be 12, because if I get 12-inch lone up Plague Marines, I am spamming 3 of that guy. And they also said that his weapon is one of the most devastating melee weapons in 40k. So now that is obviously
devastating, literally the word devastating.
No, they said the most lethal or dangerous weapons. Now, don't be wrong. They also said Fulgrim beat Angron every single time, and I think we've ran the maths on that one, haven't we, Dan?
Currently, yes. Pending Angron's Codex stats, he might not.
Oh, do you reckon that was what they did? They heavily nerfed him, and that's the one they fought against?
It's the running theory, because there's no math that explains how Fulgrim kills Angron.
Yeah, that is fair. But yeah, I'm super hyped. Obviously, hit 6 attachments give me even more hype. They said I'm gonna have one with endless Poxwalkers, so I mean I've got 120 painted, so I'm hoping they get a battle line. I'm hoping I just get to just absolutely spam it. I don't care if it's going to be good or not. I just need to validate me owning 120 Poxwalkers again. So I'm going to put it on a table and obviously break my back playing it. If you get a Jackal / Mortals detachment, I want to pair into you and we're just going to run each of all our Mortals. Just
if you gain a Feel No Pain and we retain ours, those games would be so long.
That would be horrible.
That'd be so bad, man.
That'd be the worst ever game of 40k I've ever played. I'd love it at the same time.
That'd be the one time we play the shadow round of a UKTC event or something, and somehow we've both made top cut, and it's just do we really have to do this?
It's 2 a.m. Can we stop?
The guy running the stream just looks like
eyes looking at you if you regen those Poxwalkers one more time, Aiden, I will throw a chair at you.
I'm gonna spend 2 CP. So yeah, that it does look really good, and I'm super hyped. And again, I think the one thing we were sort of lacking is if it is some form of lone op, because we don't have any access to it at all in our army or with allies. So that would be really cool. And I'm a sucker for a giant, massive melee weapon. I love the Lord of Contagion because it's a damage flat 3 smashy thing, and turns out having the odd character that just has a big damage number that can go smack things is pretty good. So I mean, if it even half lives up to the hype of, because I mean, I look at Lord of Contagion, I'm like, damn, that's one of the best weapons in 40k with its flat damage 3. So if it's better than that, like, are we looking at damage 4? But I mean, I'll be happy with damage 3 because so many elites have 3 wounds. Being able to like kill them is gonna be really good.
Few things in the game with like flat 4 damage. I think the Mutilith is like one of them. And usually in those cases, you can't hit and you can't wound. You know.
Oh yeah, it's always the way. It's like if you got a good stat, you're hitting on 4s or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great target for precision, for epic challenge, you know. Like if he's got a really potent melee profile, this guy just lurking inside a big plague marine blob pops out, you know, you're just like, all right, cool, bye.
So
here's the big sword.
I had this running idea, and I really hope it's true. It's probably not. Don't take this as, don't go post everywhere. But I really want to see this guy have like a choice to keep up all his attacks par 1. So he has 1 attack, which is anti-character 2 up, flat 6 damage dev wounds. And just be like, I can risk it all to cut that guy's head clean off. Which I really...
It's like a Dark Souls attack, you know, where you have like a really big sword and you like have to do the hold down the attack button to charge it up.
Yeah. And then you whip it anyway.
You'd have to make it so like you can't re-roll it or anything.
Yeah, like it has to be a natural 2.
And you can't re-roll.
I'd take that. That'd be so funny. We got a $5 super chat from Redrun. Thank you so much, Eddie. I'd love to see a World Eater's detachment that gives them more strength and power the weaker the unit gets. So okay, so it's like your under strength and whatnot. And of course, a detachment like the Exalted of the Red Angel, which I believe was that the sort of 8 bounty detachment.
I think there's like a misunderstanding of like exactly what the Disciples of the Red Angel is, because in 9th edition it was our combo demon and 8 bounds. It was basically like a detachment where you could ally in more demons and you could only bring World Eater units with a demon keyword, and it was like led by Angron. It's like his whole vibe. So I think Disciples of the Red Angel is just going to be our demon ally detachment, and the 8 bound detachment will probably be separate. I do like the whole kind of like, as guys get weaker they get stronger. It's very like Blood Tithes, where it's kind of like, you've killed some of my dudes but I've powered up the rest of them. It's a really fun mechanic because by the end of the game you can have like 4 berserkers who feel like mini characters, you know. I don't see them bringing it back. It was a lot of admin, even though it was really fun, and they've moved away from like admin based mechanics outside of like, we'll say miracle dice, and that's a very basic version.
Yeah,
so I would love to see it. I don't think it's a reality though, unfortunately.
Would be cool though. But so if we're talking about, we've obviously seen they've updated the roadmap. Space Wolves obviously now also exist. They've kind of popped out of nowhere. So I think if the roadmap is to be believed, and again they could change at any point, I think Thousand Suns is actually supposed to be up first, I believe. Which I'll be honest, like because I was originally on the last one, it was World Eaters, then Death Guard, then Thousand Suns. I'm kind of okay with it because I feel like, out of all of us, the one that needs a codex the most is probably Thousand Suns, because your army is just in a hole at the moment. Not necessarily in terms of like power and badness, it's just the design of it is a bit like kind of toxic internally.
Well, there's no innovation to be had right now. It's basically, I mean, we had previous Pantheons where we talked about how oppressive Doombolt and the mechanics of the army were, and how, you know, the army was actually winning tournaments, and, you know, a bunch of us at Tacoma were in the top cut, and it was just kind of like, all right, the army's in a really good spot, and then they've reeled it back and reeled it back and reeled it back since then. And essentially what they did was they just raised the points on a lot of stuff, and by doing that, because we have to run on Cabal points to use our army rule, you're taking out the things that don't give you Cabal points or don't interact with the army rule, and then you're basically down to the core of your army being Magnus, some Rubric Marines, Infernal Masters, and Aramon probably, and then you're left with about 400 or 500 points to kind of do what you want. And if basically you're playing an army where your only creativity is like 400 or 500 points, there's not a lot of fun in that, to be honest. And you know, it's easy to burn out on it and get to a point where it's not fun. And I think that's kind of what I've heard from a lot of other Thousand Suns players, and most of them are basically taking a break playing other armies at the moment because of that. The rumor is that the new rules are probably going to shift towards something like what they're doing with Eldar, where you get a set amount of tokens, and then that, based on the army size or the battle size that you're playing, and then those get to be spent on different things. Like Cabals will be similar to like battle focus things, that you get to spend them on certain things, and most likely you have to have like a psyker to target that with, so you know it won't necessarily limit you by taking other stuff, but you'll still have to use the psychers there to actually use the army rule. The big thing is, how do they make the rest of the army mesh with the core army rule? Because ultimately you get to a point where Zangors, cultists, mutalisks, like they just eventually, like all the other stuff we have, defilers, land raiders, predators, all those things, the reason you don't see them is because every point you spend on them is not a point spent creating cabal points. So it'll really come down to, how do they make the rest of them actually interact with that? Can you use those new cabal token system or whatever it is they end up coming up with? Will that actually work, and will you have the creativity to actually use more of the codex than just, you know, a handful of stuff?
And I imagine, as a Father and Son player, the thing you're probably most looking forward to is obviously the Brayherd detachment. That is semi-never. Do you reckon you're going to get one? Let's be honest. Are they going to do it?
We're going to be forced to get it. And I will bet you that at some point before the end of... Oh, we might get 11th this summer, so that's maybe another discussion. But before the 10th, 11th edition window closes, there will be a time frame where Zangors are the list. For and
The world just does not need that. Like, we just don't need that in the game.
Doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. No.
I want to see a world where the best list for Thousand Sons is Zangor, and it's like a horde spam, and they can give it invulns to get Feel No Pain. Jackal / Mortal spam be the best thing for Red Path, and the Poxwalker spam be the best, and then we all go to a teams event with these absolute just disgusting filth horde lists and make everyone have depression.
Space Marines.
I'll be honest, Aiden, I played in 8th edition. My tournament list was 90 Plague Bearers with a ton of Sorcerers behind them. And I've never come closer to quitting 40k than I did when I played that already.
Yeah, that is definitely a vibe. Christopher Strongboy says, $5 Canadian Super Chat. Thank you very much, mate. It's very kind of you to say that, Aiden, but all the 1000 Suns players need is a good vacuuming and call it a day. Oh, you're making one of those old dust jokes. Oh, bless the poor 1000 Suns.
I can't wait for them to delete Doom Bolt. That's like my favorite thing from them.
We're not, and on the hate, we're not even going to talk about the shit they did with Space Wolves, where it was kind of like they spent 5 minutes on the 3 of our armies, just like, and here's what you get, they're cool, yeah, that's great, moving on, and then they spend the next like half an hour like, we're range refreshing all of the Space Wolves, and seriously?
It was rough. The only saving grace for me is that I actually think what they've done with the Space Wolves is really good. Like, they've moved them away from the kind of like wolfy wolfmen. And I like they've very subtly altered the Primaris armor to look more like basic Marines. So it's kind of like big firstborn. I like that. However, look, I mean, there's a lot of Space Wolf players in my friend group, and I'm so sick of playing against their armies because they look so terrible. So I'm actually happy because I won't have to deal with that anymore. I just hope that the Thunderwolf Cavalry cease to exist because it's the stupidest unit in 40k. It just should not exist.
Yeah. Well, do you think that's a sign, the fact that they're doing that big range refresh for them, do you think it's a possibility that signals something similar for Thousand Suns and that they get those two fighting each other again? Because I feel like they kind of have like, they're like two of the biggest rivals in all of 40k. And they've just kind of like done these sidebar, quests for these armies at the moment where it like, let's get them back to fighting each other again so that people are actually excited about it and actually, come out with new lore, new battles.
It's really hard to predict because there's no rhyme or reason into how they decide who gets a full army refresh and who doesn't. I mean, we've seen orcs get like army refreshes every edition since 8th edition, which is actually like insane. In some editions they get multiple range refreshes, because I think it was 9th where they got the buggies, and they also got that like really big like beast boy one, and then obviously I feel like it feels really recently, like maybe it was 10th edition where they got another full range and they got like multiple kill teams. So you look at that and you're like, okay. And then obviously Eldar, very similar, refresh after refresh. Now everything's basically done. Player base still complaining, but well, you know, that's a separate issue.
Meanwhile, the Drakari player who can't even buy half of his models in his army.
You have like the cousin of the Eldar, where it's like, oh yeah, we're real struggling, and then obviously you turn to Chaos, and you've got Chaos Space Marines, which is now a very modern, really beautiful range. They've done an incredible job, and you've got Chaos Knights, also brand new, incredibly modern, keep getting really cool, new and interesting stuff. The Cult Legions then are like so sporadic because you've got like 3 of them, which are in this really weird place where it feels like it's half a range. You've got Deck Guard, which feels almost complete by virtue of being a launch army. And then it's so, because everyone saw the Sisters when they came back, and they were like, oh, Sisters got a really big initial release, and then they got a second wave. And I think that stuck with people, and everyone said, okay, that's how they're going to do
AdMech as
army
well, when they
launches.
came out, it was first wave, then second wave for AdMech.
Yeah, but there's actually a really big gap between AdMech's first and second wave.
Yes.
It was, I think someone said yesterday, it was like 5 years or something. Now, okay, to be fair, it's been like a decade for Thousand Suns players, you know, but I don't know, don't use Doom Bolts. So basically, you can't predict it. And then you have to consider like logistical problems, which GW have been plagued with over the last while, or so we've heard anyway. You just don't know, you know? And
Yeah.
I think you're only in for a bad time if you're the kind of person who wants to try and predict and put your hopes based on what you think is going to happen, because it's literally impossible to predict. The only thing that you can know for certain is if you're a loyalist Marine player, you will get a big range of models at the start of the edition, and you'll probably get a top up towards the end of the edition. They're the only things you can bank on in this game. Everything else, you're pulling it out of your ass if you think there's a pattern. Like, there just isn't one. And that's the reality of the situation, you know?
There's actually
Thousand Suns.
2 truths, actually, Dara. One is that they're correct about Space Marines. The second one is the Eldar Codex will be very strong.
That's also very true, yes. That is very, very true. It's like, if I had my choice, it's like controversial. If someone had it like, you know, I went to GW and they were like, you can give a big second wave to T-Suns or World Eaters, I'd give it to T-Suns because, like, goddamn, like, they've been waiting a decade, you know? And it's just not right. Like, I don't know. It really, really grinds my gears because, like, they act as if these armies aren't popular, but then you look at GSC, who've had, I think, at least 2 significant waves of models, maybe even 3.
Yeah.
And they're like one of the least popular armies in the game, you know? I'm like, who decides this stuff? Like, if Votann get a second wave, I will lose my shit because it's literally the most unpopular army in the game, you know? So I don't know. I can't predict it anymore. I don't want to tell people this is what I think is going to happen in 11th. There's people going around the World Eaters subreddit being like, I call customer support and they said that we've got a big wave coming in 11th.
Oh, that's something that happens,
Customer
yeah.
support told you that. Like, that's the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. Like, no one knows in GW internally. The only people that know are like the people who are literally deciding the model release schedule, and then everyone else finds out. Some dude in customer support isn't like, I'm holding all the secrets, baby.
You say this,
Like-
but I actually ran customer support and they told me Mortarian's getting 14-inch move and 7 attacks. So it's got to be true, obviously. Customer
must be
support,
true.
you know, they can't lie.
If you want your leaks, just call them. They'll tell you.
Which customer support are you calling? Because this is all news to me.
Maybe it was on his last day. Oh, dear
Yeah,
me.
so I don't know. I think because a lot of the World Eater anger was people believing that there was a second wave coming for us, like
Yeah.
really believing it. And I
But you
was
had reason to. Like, you had reason to believe that it was coming. Like, because of how
Our-
small your initial release was.
yeah, in a sense, our reasoning was that Sisters had a second wave, so we would get one too. And that's kind of as far as it went. Like, GW isn't like just gonna. I know it sucks that our first wave was small and didn't have all the units that we think. Oh, also, okay, this is a big bugbear that I have, right? Everyone's like, where are the Red Butchers? Where are our specific Terminators? Like, you know that like hard to swallow pills meme? The hard to swallow pills for the World Eater community is there are 2 lines of flavor text and lore for the Red Butchers in 40k, and those 2 lines of lore are on the stratagem card from 8th edition, which was the Red Butcher's stratagem. They have never been mentioned in 40k since then, probably because they're all dead. Like, they don't exist. We've got 8 band. That's how it is. We're not getting Terminators. So I don't know. It's tough because people have these like, they make up these kind of like conditions in their head of like, this is how the release wave must go, and then obviously it kind of perpetrates through the community, and more people believe it, and then we get to where we are.
I have a perfect example of this. We had one or two people simultaneously, I think just coincidentally, ask if people thought that Mutalith Vortex beasts were going away in the next Codex. And that got picked up by more people and more people, to the point where there was actually a growing small group of folks in the community that have actually been saying, oh, Mutaliths are going away. What are we going to do? And it's like, it's so funny how things like that can just completely evolve and get out of control so quickly. By just getting parroted, or, you know, folks just not even like thinking about it a little bit, just kind of like, okay, why would
in
they
9th
get rid of it?
edition,
Like
me and Jack got bored one day and we just started a rumor that there was going to be a kill team with Red Butcher models in it, and it ran. I saw people saying it in other discords and I was just like, oh Jesus, what have I done?
Yep.
See, it's not easy, like, because people will believe what they want to believe. So if you just tell people, or they want to believe something, that'll make them angry. And obviously with EC losing like Preds and losing various other kind of
that means
CSM
we're all losing it,
staples,
obviously. Like that's
doesn't. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're losing it. It could be indicative that we are.
I mean,
maybe we're also not.
I'd be okay. I mean, I'd be okay with losing Predators if there was something to offset that. Like,
yes,
here's the Thousand Suns tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Here's the World Eaters tank. You know, it has a bunch of just bulldozer blades on the front, and that's all it does. It just drives.
It just has a melee profile.
The tank.
The tank.
It's a blade drone without fly.
I mean, because technically, if we were to follow the Empress Children, that everyone seems to think that's happening, where we're all losing Defilers, we're all losing Predators, we're all losing Forge Fiends, then that vehicle detachment Thousand Sun's gonna look real shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Real slim. I mean, is it literally just gonna be Rhinos, Land Raiders, and the new robots? Because you don't have any other vehicle, right?
We have Defilers. We have Helldrakes still, and those are supposed to, like, the Demon Engines are actually supposed to be a big part of the Thousand Suns because they actually have been involved in the design of a bunch of these things. But you know, we're not really backing that up on the table these days. So, what the hell do we know? I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. They took away dreadnoughts from almost everybody in the game.
Yeah.
I didn't see.
To be
that
fair,
coming.
I want them to take the Hellbrute. That thing looks so bad, you know? I want them to take it away, put it in a corner for 6 months, have someone work on it, and give me a Redemptor-sized Hellbrute that actually does something.
Defiler, yes.
Don't laugh at him, Dara. Are you ready for this?
He looks.
The
He's just
Defilers-
like.
There you go, Dara. This is
Sorry,
this
go on.
is
Just
the
as
thing.
bad. It's just as bad for the Defiler. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
I picked one up just for the fun of it and went and assembled it, and I was laughing at just how bad and old design. It literally like tons of just flat, undetailed plastic that are just going in as part of the model, and you're like,
It's like
I guess I could have just
rectangles
used
of
the
plastic
leftover
that's stacked
screw.
together.
That is a plague surgeon height in comparison. They are almost the same.
It's ridiculous. It's like, and I could. This is okay. I really hope people don't run with this as an actual rumor because it's
No,
not.
let's start a rumor.
My-
Let's start one. Come on.
Okay.
Right now,
This
Dara.
is
Drop
true.
us a
Post it
rumor.
on Reddit. I think, okay, if we lose, we'll say 4Gs, if we lose Hellbrutes, Predators, all that. If that actually happens, I think there's a world where GW are taking these kind of like what I call like their teenage angst sculpts, which was kind of like that like 5th to 7th period where they started making better models, but in retrospect they look bad now. Like the Helldrake and the Forge Fiend just look bad next to the new CSM stuff. I think they're taking them away. And I won't be sorry to see them go, because they do look bad. I know that people like Forge Fiends and Molder Fiends, but I don't put them in my armies because they don't look like they make sense next to World Leaders. And I could see them in 11th edition being like, you know what, we're hard pressed to do a release for the Cult Legions, so here's like a new Hellbrood, and it's like the Demon Prince, where you can get your 4 different gods and slap different stuff on it. Maybe the World Leaders one is like a buzzsaw. The Thousand Suns one has a gun that shoots Doombolt or something. You know, I can see that happening.
Doombolt cannon.
This guy has been so so shamed by Doombolt so many times. It's like every time he's got a chance.
I will
It
take what
throws
I can.
Doombolts out there.
I really
But
hope
I
there's
could
a
see that
strat
happening,
just called
you know?
Doomball. I would actually be okay with that, to be honest. I'd like I would love these like more kits, like I said, that have these unique bits. Because I actually picked up the new Demon Prince recently because I don't have a foot one, and I was like, it's probably going to be terrible because I mean it's not good now, but the sculpt looks cool. I don't own one, and actually it's a really cool model. I really like it.
I think it's the best
I like the
modern
new
sculpt.
Demon Prince.
It's a brilliant kit, and it's got so much options, and you get a ton of spare bits, which is great.
Oh yeah, I've got so many spare
They
bits
did a
on
good
it.
job on it.
So I hope we get more stuff like that because that's probably the best way to sort of supplement them. But yeah, it is a weird one, isn't it, when we come to talking like full range. I do think Thousand Suns are caught in a weird spot because you didn't get your, so I mean since 8 forward, like it's kind of when everything sort of stepped up for GW. But Thousand Suns release was end of 7th, I believe, wasn't it? When you got Magnus.
What was so bad about it was we didn't get a release in the same sense that you guys got releases. We got a bunch of like hand-me-downs from Age of Sigmar that they just went,
Yes.
oh, these things magically can be played in 40k now, which, okay, great. That's a great temporary thing to put in there, but now it's kind of like, all right, at what point are you guys going to move on from this and actually give us more of a bespoke feeling on the table? The robots are a good step in that direction, even though, you know, again, I said my piece on them. They're a good step at like, okay, this is actually what the army is going to start to look like and the kind of stuff that's going to be in it. Cool. Let's get more of it. Let's just not have to wait 2 years every time we get one new model added to the army. And the disappointing thing is that the stuff that really needs the refresh is used in all the armies. Predators, the Rhinos, the Land Raiders, the Demon Engines. Like, you could the Demon Prince is a great example where you refresh that and it technically counts as refreshing a model for all these different armies that are there because
Yep.
they all get this new model, right? And I was very happy about that, but why don't they do this for some of the other? I have no idea.
It would be incredible.
Yeah, that would
to
be the
see a new,
easiest
like-
way to make us all happy. Would to get those generic things and just make a new kit that's multifunctional for all the different legions. Because yeah, you are right. With one kit, you can appease 5 because you have the generic CSM as well. Like player bases, which is probably the way to go because it is weird to see. Like, I understand they need to update stuff like Eldad obviously needed updating, or like all the models really like needed updating, but we're in this weird spot where we don't need updates for the generic stuff, but like, not so much me, but like you like more Thousand Suns probably. You need like your models still, so you don't need updates. You need actual new models, and they seem, unless you're a Space Marine, they seem quite reluctant to add new units. They like updating units, but they don't really like adding new units too much, which is a bit of a swing and a miss. I think there's some cool things you could do for, because like even the cultists, EC lost cultists. Like, do the Thousand Suns keep cultists? Because the weird thing is they don't really look very Thousand Sunny.
In my opinion, if it's in Space Marine 2, it's going to be in your Codex. So I think you're probably safe. Because I feel like they probably had a vice around Saber's neck when they were like, all right, you better make sure you don't put any like Vindicators in there. Because
No,
they're
that
not
means-
going to be in the deck.
That means the Hellbrute's still in Darren.
It would mean the Hellbrute's still in, but I mean, that's my theory because Saber have said like GW were really like tight on like getting the IP correct, and I don't see them flubbing it that badly because I feel like they probably had the T-Suns Codex written like for a while, you know.
We were actually poking some fun at Space Marine 2 and the fact that if you look at the storyline in that, it's one little dude on a disc of Zinch that is taking basically the entire chapter of Ultramarines to deal with them, and it's kind of like, all right, well now what do you do when you have like the Legion, and how are you going to deal with like a legion of those dudes on? It was just really funny that they were able to lock up what's his name, Calgar or whoever, in like illusion jail, and
it just shows how bad Ultramarines are. You know, they're just like they need
agree.
literally all the help they can get. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like look, we're gonna see like the codexes are gonna start coming out. If we see T-Suns and they lose all the exact same stuff as Emperor's Children, yeah, we can start kind of assuming safely that Deckard and World Leaders will probably lose them too. But like, you know, it's certainly annoying to lose predators and stuff, but like I haven't run a predator in 10th edition. You know, it's not gonna devastate me. I think like I would say like going forward, obviously depending on the shape of our 10th edition codex, like world leaders are in a good spot in terms of unit diversity, which is weird to say because it doesn't outwardly look like it. But you know, everyone's like, I want Juggernaut cavalry. Then tell me what are Juggernaut cavalry bringing as a data sheet that 8-bound or Exalted 8-bound or Berserkers don't do.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're saying like, okay, we want Red Butchers. What do they do that Exalted 8-bound don't? What I want to see is I want to see demon engines. I want to see them give me a Bloodslaughter, give me a
I
Brass
want the
Scorpion
Bloodslaughter back really badly. That thing was
that's
super
what I
cool.
want to see. Like really cool, because Khorne has a ton of them. You know, give me like some sort of weird stripped down Rhino, which can like go faster and like guys like have to always take a desperate escape or emergency disembark when they jump out because it's just so dangerous. You know, give me that stuff, right? Don't give me another data sheet for a model that looks different, but it's just a reskin of does combat good, you know?
Punch is good.
I want to see. I want to see some interesting things. Give me like, you know, you want to go wild? Give me like the Doom Blaster. Give me like a 4-barrel artillery indirect piece that the world leaders just somehow have and hasn't been seen in like decades. That would be fun. But who knows? Like, I think world leaders are in a good spot. I would say Deck Guard in a great spot for models. World leaders actually in a pretty good spot. Thousand Suns in the doldrums. Like, they need help, you know? And I think I agree with Dave where I'm like, the robot idea is interesting. And developing in that road, like going into the more like Men of Iron, going into the weird battle automata, that would be really interesting. You know, what if they get like quite a large battle engine, which is like sort of AI powered or something like that? It'd be cool.
I've always been saying what they need to do is figure out a way to put a silver tower on the table, similar to like how Necrons get monoliths.
Yeah.
And I think you could do something where like you could model it where it's like the base of the silver tower that is just this giant piece that you can put down and stuff can disembark from it and it shoots and does all sorts of other stuff, costs like 500 points or whatever. It doesn't have to be in every army, but it's the kind of thing where the stuff that people get really excited about when they read in the lore, like, oh my god, this is so cool.
You could even just
this.
do like a shard,
no way to do it on the table.
like have the Silver Towers be able to like put out shards of itself, which are like almost like, you know, automated like defense points that just float around, and you can summon like, you know, like how demons have like the 6-inch deep strike when you're around it, like those things can like project
that'd
an
be so
aura,
cool.
and then you can arrive around it. You can
could do all
teleport
sorts of
between
stuff
them.
like that, yeah.
That'd be cool. If you could like, if they acted like pylons in StarCraft where you could like teleport between them, that'd be really cool. Because it like has counterplays where it's like, okay, cool, I will kill this pylons and.
Hear me out. It's like the Silent King's like 2 menhirs, except instead of firing a conventional gun, you guessed it, they fire giant doom bolts.
You could, they're doom bolt generators. Every silver spire lets you shoot one doom bolt.
I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, I think you're going to be very happy when the Codex comes out because I think Doom Bolt's going to get nerfed. I'll just put that out there.
I actually don't think Doom Bolt's that bad, for the record. It's just a good meme, you know? It's like I'm running with it.
So, very quickly, as like a final topic. Sorry, I'll get you finish that just before we go. I just want to talk about very quickly is like, again, we're talking reverse here. But one thing we've said, it was something me and Dara were talking about before we came on here, was like GW wanting potentially to. They really want to identify what makes each, and they even said this in like the Adepticon thing. They want to identify what makes each legion unique and its unique godline playstyle. So one thing we're talking about Dara is Dara thinks that his legion is going to keep the sort of melee output but lose a lot of the speed because he thinks the speed is going to be the thing that EC do really well, whereas they don't hit as hard but they have a lot more speed. So that'd be quite interesting angle to go from, and I do wonder if that's something they're going to go in. And again, it kind of makes me wonder what, because I mean yours was obviously would be psychic, but that isn't a phase anymore. So I do wonder what the 1,000 someone, and if it's going to be like uppy downy teleport or something, who knows. But I do wonder if you have any ideas for like that.
I mean, my personal take, just hearing you say the thing about speed, the way I look at it is like EC are going to be like the Chaos Space Marine version of Blood Angels in a way, and Horn or the World Eaters are going to be like the Custodies and how they play on the table. Where the Custodies, they basically go across the table, they don't stop, they just run you over, and that's how that goes. you don't do the same thing with Blood Angels. Like they play a little bit more strategic, and I think that's how EC will play.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely. We actually literally were talking about this, I think, yesterday, where myself, Brian, and Jamie were saying, like, are they trying to make us Chaos Custodes? For the record, I'm okay with that. I think that's kind of cool. I really love the idea of World Leaders just being, like, jacked up. Like, you know, absolutely crazy, muscly dudes. Like, they can take a lot of damage. That's great. Like, I don't mind that design aesthetic instead of just being, like, go super fast. Because, like, the super fast stuff is... It's a bit of a crutch for World Leader players. And it's, like, a bit of a problem because you have people getting into competitive and they're like, okay, I had this one game where I advanced and charged across the entire army and my opponent deployed bad and I tabled them in, like, 2 turns. Great. You try and do it again, and you bounce off a screen, and you die. And then you drop the army because you're like, I can't make it work. It doesn't work. You know, it's not me. It's just because, like, the game's stupid. And then obviously you get to the higher end of players who've kind of worked out the kind of niche mechanics of the army, and they're doing very well. So you're trying to have this, like, very disconnected conversation between newcomers, and you're trying to help them out, and they just can't get past this whole, but I can go very fast. I can be in my opponent's turn, or deployment zone in turn 1. So if you bring the playstyle back a notch in terms of speed, I think it's actually, there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction from the community, which is like, they have nerfed us into oblivion, the sky's falling.
Dead army, dead codex.
Yeah, dead army, dead codex. But the reality of the situation is those people who choose to stick through it and keep playing will probably actually have a much better playing experience. I think it was yesterday I was chatting with one of the patrons, and we were both just kind of like, man, I don't remember the last time I actually used Advance and Charge as a blessing, you know? Because, like, at the kind of not necessarily all the time, but a lot of games at a higher competitive level, there's no point in using it because you're going to get screened out. It's a good threat to have. Your opponent has to respect it. So they have to set up in specific ways, and then you manipulate what happens around that. But, yeah, I think they're trying to differentiate it. I can see us being faster than Emperor's Children, which with our current rules we are. I just don't think that's a reality. And I think we have to start kind of getting ready for a bit of a frame shift in terms of how we play. And that's fine. You know, like, to be honest, I've been playing the same playstyle, the same 40k, since 10th edition started. And it's fun, but it gets boring after a while.
I think
so
we're all
GW
feeling
just
that.
like... Yeah, right, because we've all, especially Dave, I
Yeah,
think.
at least
like,
Alice can change, man.
I think like it's just like whatever about World Leaders, we've had list innovation. Deck Guard has had quite a bit of list innovation over the time, similar to World Leaders, I think. And then Thousand Suns is just like it's been the same list since the start of the edition. We just keep losing a unit every time the balance happens, and that's it. Like you know, I'm like I want GW to like flip the table on all of our books. I actually think it for Deck Guard as well is like obviously competitively they're in a good spot, but like they just don't really have an identity, in my opinion. You know.
A lot of people at the moment have a massive disconnect of reading about Death Guard and learning about Death Guard and wanting to play Death Guard, and then you put it on the table and you just get killed instantly. And that's I don't want us to go back to just being all about durability, because I think that can also be boring at the same time, but they have to at least give that angle back to us of being this like remorse tide. Like, we don't have the speed, but we need to be able to, in exchange for the speed, be able to keep pushing forward while taking damage and get there. And yeah, I mean, we need data sheet rewrites. We're being held up by an incredibly overpowered index detachment at the moment, because that thing is cranked. That is so nuts. The -1 save or is going away, and that's also gonna I think that's gonna same thing's gonna happen there. I think when we lose that index, because people think Play Company's gonna stay. No, it's not. Not a chance in hell that detachment stays. And when that goes, I think a lot of people are gonna be like nerfed, dead, army useless, and it's gonna be quite a change, because one thing 40k players absolutely love more than not getting new models, it's anything changing in that army.
Yeah. I get it, because like, you know, I suppose from our perspective, right, we probably play a lot more games than we'll say the average player, because obviously we go to a lot of events, we do a lot of practice and stuff. So like, I mean, I might be playing 2 games a week, whereas like probably more common thing is that people are playing once a month. So for them, the sort of appeal of the current version, it doesn't get kind of like used up by the fact that we're playing like so much more. So they're still enjoying the aspect of the army that they have, and that's totally fair and valid. Like I'm sure there's people who still love blessings of Corrin and like are really enjoying it, and I like them too. It's a fun mechanic, but I'm like, man, I'm ready to move on to something fresh. And it's a bit of a it's one of the things that's kind of hard sometimes to talk to people, because when you're not on the exact same like amount of like hours put into the army, you can have very different experiences. And I think obviously if you have a really big frame shift in terms of an army's design and how it plays on the table, unless your army was really bad before, it doesn't even matter if your power is maintained. Say like world leaders are up here. If we stay up here, but like our actual fundamental design changes, people will still be angry because they have to relearn how to play the army. And that is challenging, especially if you only play one game a month. It's going to take you quite a while to get that back up again.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. Like, I absolutely sympathize with that. I just think right now, especially for the world leaders, we're faster than Emperor's Children, and we're more durable than Deck Guard. Neither of those things are going to stay.
Yeah.
Just the reality of the situation. And you know what I'd love to see for Deck Guard? I think it would be sick if they were like, Deck Guard are going to be like the Necrons of Chaos, and they have like, some sort of resurrection, right? I love the idea of like, you kill a Plague Marine, he stands back up. I'm like, that's sick. Give me that.
That'd be cool. I would like to see that. That'd be quite a cool idea. But yeah, I mean, so we'll wrap up now, because obviously I don't want to take you guys up all evening. So if you got anyone got any final thoughts, and if not, if people wanted to learn more about how you fire doom bolts effectively, how you can cast magic tricks, and you probably have a copy paste response for someone who asks, is this a good Thousand Sun list at this point? Where can we find more information on the Thousand Suns?
Well, we're a little bit behind on content because we've been in this weird gap of, okay, the Codex is coming out, and you know
I can just imagine him starting a video and being like, just turns live and he's just like, nothing's changed, and he just ends the video.
I mean, that's literally what you could do, and it's tough because I've gotten asked by a lot of people, you know, how do you start Thousand Suns? How, you know, what's the best list to start with? How do you actually, what are the first models? It's the same thing you get for any army. And typically I send them out to our podcast, which is tiskinpodcast.com. We're also on iTunes and SoundCloud and a whole bunch of different places. But the reality is we're in this weird gap right now where there's if I put any content out right now, it's obsolete once the Codex comes out. So
I'm in the same boat, and I imagine Dara same.
Yeah, and once the Codex comes out, I'll drop a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. And just one last thing to ask is, give the Thousand Suns Battle Force box a rating out of 10 for us.
4.
Ooh.
Wow.
Ooh, okay, that is quite a damning one. You're not a fan apparently. Ooh, okay, interesting. Is it because the robots are in there?
I can explain it. I mean, no, the robots are in there, but it's the problem is if you look at the rest of the battle force, every Thousand Suns player who's like, hey, great, these robots are out, I'm going to pick them up. I'm getting a ton more Rubric Marines and Zangors and whatever else is in the box, and it's kind of like, I don't need those. You know, I already have over 100 Rubric Marines. I don't need more. And just to get like 4 robots. So, you know, that, yeah, I don't like how they're doing that yet. And they demonstrated with Eldar that they were able to come out and not do a battle force and just release everything in its own boxes. So
that's fair.
Just annoyed.
That's a fair point.
So they get a 4.
That's a fair point. And if someone was more interested in doing less doom bolts and more chopping people's heads off, which is quite the opposite action, where could they find more about the ways of the Blood God?
Yeah, you can check us guys out on the Red Path on YouTube. We're also on Spotify, where we put up some of our interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. But YouTube is the main place to go. We have a very, very active Discord server, which is actually just such good vibes. I want to commend it, especially anyone watching who's from the Discord. Like, the vibes were so good after Adepticon. We were all just kind of like, hell yeah. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to kit bash some Slaughterbound. So it's really, really welcoming place and a great place to get some information. And yeah, so obviously check us out on YouTube, and I'm here sometimes with Aiden, you know, which is great too.
And your rating of your Battle Force?
I'm gonna give it 2. I'm gonna say if you're a brand new player, it's like a 10 out of a 10. Like you want everything in that box, and you want the quantities of everything in that box. If you're an existing player, it's probably like a 5 or a 6, depending on what you have. And also depending on what detachments we get. Like everyone's like, oh, I already have 20 jackals, I don't need them anymore. Not if there's a jackal detachment. You'll need them then. And everyone's like, I already have like 18 exalted 8-band, and I'm like, yeah, but what if they become battle line? You're gonna want 36. So yeah, it's fine if you already have a good collection, but if you're brand new, get that battle box. It's incredible. You're gonna want everything in it.
Awesome. And obviously, on the side of the Death Guard, you're already on my channel, Discussing Resilient Podcast. We do all the things to do with the Death Guard, so you can check us out on there. And I also shout out to our Discord as well, because we have a great Discord as well, a great community, and it's nice to see everyone sort of taking stuff in the stride. We got a character. It's a really cool character. And unfortunately, it isn't a goddamn Battle Force box, so can't wait to spend 120 quid for the one character I need. but if you are a new player or you don't have 3 of everything, I think we probably got the best box, like Plague Burst Crawler, Blight Hauler, and a Bloat Drone, and Terminators, and Plague Marines, and the character. That's a pretty damn good box, I can't lie. That's a pretty damn good box. So I'm probably going to give ours, for new players, a 10 out of 10, and for existing players, a split with your friend out of 10. But yeah, that's everything for tonight, guys. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for both of my guests here for coming on for tonight and talking about us. And no doubt, once we see our codexes come out, we'll have another one, because it's going to be a very exciting and busy time for all 3 of us. And end of the day, I just can't wait to get our codexes now. I have waited long enough, and we're at the finish line now, aren't we?
Yeah. Thank God. I'm so glad I get like more than 3 months of a codex in this edition.
Yes!
It's so good.
It should be a good time. But for now, everybody, thank you so much for listening in. And we'll catch you all on the next one. Stay rotten from me. And if the other guys have like any like sign off that they normally say, I don't know.
Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill me and burn. I got it.
There you go. That's a good one. And Magic Man, does the Tiscan have a sign off?
Magnus did nothing wrong.
That's a lie.
Just spitting facts here. Just spitting facts, guys. Sorry.
No, it's no worries. Anyway, take care, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
From the depths of rot and decay they rise. The Death Guard marches under sickened skies. With boils and blight, they spread the pain. In Nurgle's name, disease will reign. Rock and ruin and pestilence flows. With every breath the plague wind blows. Embrace the rot, let flesh decay. The Death Guard comes, none can stay. From the depths of rot and decay they rise. The Death Guard marches under sickened skies. With boils and blight, they spread the pain. In Nurgle's name, disease will reign. Rot and ruin, pestilence flows. With every breath the plague wind blows. Embrace the rot, let flesh decay. The Death Guard comes, none can stay. Armored and filth with rusted blades, they laugh as cities wilt and fade. Where they tread, no life remains, just hollow corpses, plague remains. Beneath the helm, the cursed grin, for in death they shall begin. Rot and ruin,